Hi, welcome to the lecture of Making Connection. Today we are going to discuss on romantic movement. It can be said as romantic age, romantic period, romantic era or romanticism. It's not like the romance between a girl and a boy or couples, but turbulent transition of the ages that brings revolution in the environment of the world. Those are the questions whose answers will be given through this video. The questions are: how can romantic movement be defined? What is the unique about romanticism? How romantic period is different from others? What influenced romanticism? How does this period affect society and literature? What are the principles of romanticism? Romanticism is an artistic, literary and intellectual movement that originates in Europe and extends from the span between the year 1785, the midpoint of the decade in which Samuel Johnson died, and Blake and Burns published their first poems, and 1813, by which time the major writers of the preceding century are either dead or no longer productive. It is basically a tendency denoting a part of literature that is centered upon the inner rather than outer world and tries to express the feelings of romantics in a way uniquely expressive of experience and personality. The age is also termed as the period of romantic revival because the glorious production of the era had a close connection with the previous Elizabethan era and it continued influencing the later Victorian age. Basically, the Romantic period had a great many, more than 6 canonical poets, and was interconnected with a multitude of intellectual, political, social and economic change. Those are the unique features of Romanticism: emphasis on emotion and creative imagination, emphasis on individualism, deep and sincere love for nature, love for man, particularly the commons and past, especially the Middle Ages, addition of stages to beauty, a subtle sense of mystery, and exuberant intellectual curiosity, supernaturalism, subjectivity, predominance of lyricism, idealism, love for freedom and liberty. Those features can be found in Romantic poetry. Jacques Rousseau, the French philosopher, is considered as the father of Romanticism. According to him, Romanticism is inseparably bound up with emotional naturalism. This movement is inclined to deny the duality of human nature and then sought to dissimulate this mutilation of man under a mask of intellectual and emotional sophistry. Basically, the man who paints himself not on outer authority but on an experience is an individualist. Here life does not give an element of honest but an element of change that gives an honest which is always changing. Moreover, the honest and the change are inseparable. For that purpose, Aristotle mentioned romantic as wonderful rather than probable, when it violates the normal sequence of cause and effect in favor of adventure. What is adventure? May be romantic in a way that is clear in Lord Byron's poem in Don Juan, where the external nature of surroundings helped a lot in the adventurous lovemaking of Don Juan and Donna Julia. He uses a long description of various sweet things from natural environment to highlight the superiority of first and passionate love. William Blake, the founder or precursor of Romanticism, is also known as the first generation of Romantic poet or pre-Romantic visionary poet. As a poet and as an artist, and from the renaissance of conventional being, he developed two sorts of imagery in words and pictures, what he called the voice of the bird, who present, past and future sees. He is a complete individual, and nobody like him is present in the history. William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge are taken to be the official leaders of Romantic movement because they collaborated on the basis of their works, interacting on a daily basis, but that would fit no single definition. Mainly, a thing is romantic when it is tense, unexpected, intense, superlative, extreme, unique, adventurous, unusual, especially in matters of sentiment. On the other hand, a thing is classical when it is not unique but representative of a class, By an easy extension of meaning, a thing is classical when it belongs to a high class or to the best class. Basically, Romanticism is the spontaneous product of popular imagination of Middle Ages. Uncultivated human imagination in all times and places is romantic. It hungers for the thrilling and the marvelous and, in short, incurably melodramatic. However, during neoclassical period, judgment and imagination came to be sharply contrasted. This contrast between reason and imagination is closely related to the contrast of expectation of French art, because they are so prone of establishing generalities and to the sense of individuality. In the 16th century, prime emphasis was put not upon common sense but upon wit or ingenuity. The struggle between those senses stands out with special clearness in France. Whatever fancy and judgment do not seem to cooperate but to war with one another. Later there was the conflict among the different types of imagination, especially between the literary and scientific imagination in the 18th century. The scientific imagination should strictly subordinated to judgment, whereas the literary imagination, free from to wander, willed in its own. According to Romantic conception, the imagination is to be free not merely from outer formalistic constraint, but from all constraints whatever. The extreme Romantic conception of the imagination was accompanied by an equally extreme emancipation of the emotions. Those are the main reasons behind Romanticism. They are like the Industrial Revolution, France Revolution, American War, publication of lyrical ballads, and the Reform Bill 1832. There are three reasons behind this Romanticism: social reasons, political reasons, and intellectual reasons. Social reasons are growing burden of trade walls, increasing poverty, government debt, attempt tax to the nobles, tax burden on the third estate. Political reasons are absolute monarchy, growth of industry, rise of middle classes. Intellectual reasons are everyone is born equal, the influence of America. Thank you all.